And today we are looking at the Orbit Aesop Rock Edition playing cards. This is a beautiful deck, my third favorite deck of all time out of the Orbit collection. So if you want to see everything about this deck, this is going to be the channel for you. So subscribe and ring the bell so you can get notified, and let's get into this review right now. The front of this tuck box says Orbit with the orbit circle around it. You will see the clouds, the moon, and even at the bottom, the Loch Ness Monster. And an overlay of Aesop Rock. One side says Aesop Rock Edition, and the other is Orbit Playing Cards ad copy. The bottom of this tuck box is done with the Orbit logo with a skull flying through instead. And the back of the tuck box is the back design. On top you have your standard 23 and an Orbit circle, black, purple, and white tuck seal. The inner tuck flap says the longer you gaze into the cosmos, the harder it is to look back, and be not afraid. On the inside, you have a heart and a skull. You do have some Instagram handles here, and the same Loch Ness Monster shown on the front of the tuck box. And then you have We Are Orbit and a bunch of logos done all on the inside. And if you want to see those same logos, they'll be popping up on screen here. This is actually one of his posts that Aesop Rock made a little just before launching this deck. The back design is beautiful and obviously going to be a one-way with the black and more skeleton x-ray looking one on the bottom. It looks like you have a person riding on some sort of creature. And you also see actually on the outside you can see a one-way design here all the way through the lake. And when it comes to how it's a skeleton on one side or an x-ray on one side and full black on the other, that actually goes for the man on the inside of the circle, where this one looks like it has an x-ray through it. And another thing with orbits, of course you're going to have the broken border, perfect for fanning, and normally there's going to be a UFO going over and picking up a person, and this time you have the skull flying over and picking up a deer. Many more details in this, and the longer you look at it, the more you'll find. The number cards and all of face cards are done Arco standard, where blacks are black and reds have a little bit of a bluish purple undertone, making it look a little bit more like a blood red. Your three aces have slightly been enlarged, and your court cards are going to be a little strange, where the red cards keep with the red and black, just like this, and same Arco faces. Nothing else outside of the ordinary, excluding the fact that now the black cards are not done in red and black, but orange and black. And truth be told, I'm not quite sure why they did it, and I'm not quite sure I'm a fan of it. It doesn't keep the same consistency or theme throughout the deck, and I'm not quite sure why they used the orange. But truth be told, I wish they would have gotten rid of it, and I think it's truly a flaw in this deck. But one thing I'm always glad about is having a double backer and having three really cool ad cards, which when put together give you a full picture. And this one right here is going to be really familiar if you've ever seen his most recent album drop, because his most recent album cover looks like this. And last but not least, the Aesop Rock Ace of Spades. And here's a quick fan and an under pressure, just so you can understand how beautiful this deck looks because of the broken border. So clearly this is a beautiful deck, but there's still some things that you'll want to know about it. So first, can this deck Pharaoh Shuffle? So from the bottom to top, this deck can Pharaoh Shuffle beautifully and perfectly every other. Not all decks can. A lot of decks actually can't, which might be surprising for those of you newer into the card community. And from top to bottom is also just as beautiful. So clearly it can fan. Clearly you can shuffle it well. There's still a few more things. Now when it comes to how thick this deck is, this is going to be a pretty medium stock. This is going to be just like your normal bicycle deck. So if you like how bicycle decks feel when it comes to thickness, this is going to be perfect for you. Then there's also how it feels in your hands. There's snappy decks, there's buttery decks, there's super stiff decks which you can't move, and I've definitely had a lot of those before. So this deck right here has a good bit of both snappy and buttery. This is really good for me specifically because a few days ago I did a 1000 card springs live stream where it took me almost 5 hours to do that, and I'm actually still able to give this deck a card spring. I can still feel a little bit of a tingle in my fingers from that live stream that I did for almost 5 hours, but this deck is still extremely snappy, extremely buttery, and can do almost any move you want to do. But should you buy this deck? That is the question. Clearly it's a really cool deck, but there's still some things that I would say that it could depend on who you are. So if you're a magician, I probably wouldn't pick this deck up. There's other Orbit decks that I would pick up still. The Orbit V8s, which I have reviewed, and the Orbit V7s. Both of these are marked decks, and I will leave the links to those reviews and marking system tutorials in the description below, so you can check those out. But those are Orbit decks more for Magic, can also be used for cardistry, but this deck, probably not going to be your thing. Can it be used for it? Sure. But this isn't a Magician intended deck. This is a cardistry intended deck. This is a deck that's beautiful. The blue and the red combo, just absolutely gorgeous. The broken border, packet cuts are going to look great with the border, medium border all the way around the outside. Circle back design is going to make spinning look great. Cardistry is going to look beautiful. The only thing I have with a downside to cardistry is those court cards. Why on earth are they orange and red? It should only be orange, and that's it. Next on if this is a collector's deck, and I would say 100% yes. First off, if you're an Aesop Rock fan, this is going to be the deck for you so you can support one of your favorite creators. I'd never heard of Aesop Rock before seeing this deck come out through Orbit, and now I'm honestly pretty hooked. But even outside of that, if you like collecting series, like the Cherry Casino playing card series, or the Orbit series, this is going to be a cool one for you to collect. And this is just going to be a deck that looks really cool on your card shelf because the tuck box look great, and everyone will be impressed that you have this deck. Next, I showed you play card games with this deck. Now, I don't technically think there's anything wrong with it. Nothing's hard to read. But at the same time, I'm probably not going to be letting my friends play with my Orbit playing cards. And lastly, is this a hype deck? Heck no. And if you do want to pick up this deck right here, I will try and find a place and leave it in the description below. But I have found a place for the V5s, 6s, 7s, and 8s. Although some of which might be sold out at this point just because they go through pretty quickly. And they're all 10% off using code cardperfectmagician. And lastly, let me know what your favorite Orbit deck is out of all of the Orbit decks that have come out so far, this one being number 11. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. So if you guys did enjoy this channel and did enjoy this review, please make sure to smash the like button, subscribe button, and notification bell. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. This is Card Perfect, signing off.